governs this and deploys the versions of the trusted firmware. Next, on the device development side, we've been working on a number of different things. So when you think about the software that runs on these devices, today in the world of MCUs, the types of devices are highly fragmented, as I said earlier. And then from an embedded software perspective, there's no one solution. So like in mobile phones or in PCs, we do have a consistent software environment. In the case of mobile phones, we have Android and we have iOS. PCs, we have Windows, we have Linux, and so on. So with MCUs or Cortex-M based devices, such a thing doesn't exist. And so at ARM, we've been working on something called Mbed OS, which hopefully some of you have heard about. And Mbed OS, I'll talk about that in the next slide, is a way in which we think we can enable developers to take a software environment, use that as a foundation, and then create their application, right? Their device running the software. And so we've made it easy from multiple perspectives, right? It comes with a tooling environment, it comes with different connectivity stacks, it comes with common support for networking, TLS, and so on. All of these are common things that you need regardless of what your device is doing. And so we felt we need to really make it easy for that to happen. In parallel with that, we've been working on hardware support because the types of devices, the number of boards, the number of hardware platforms is enormous. And if we can get those Mbed enabled or certified, then it means it gives you as a developer confidence that if you use this hardware with this version of software, it'll work together. And then finally, Mbed OS is an open governance project. So again, while ARM is taking a lot of the heavy load, we've made sure that we're doing this in the open environment. And you can see some of the statistics over here on the slide in terms of number of people that are engaged with it, how many developers are using it, the number of components. You know, some of the stats just over the last 14 days you can see in the middle box at the bottom. And so for me, Mbed OS is a way in which we can start to defragment the environment, right? Ultimately, I do believe that for IoT to scale, 1, 2, 3, maybe no more, operating systems will need to emerge in this space. Because if they don't emerge, I don't see a way in which we can scale IoT faster. And of course, IoT will happen, will be painful. And we can't trust the security of the devices if it's not built on a common foundation. And by that common foundation, I mean PSA, I mean trusted firmware, I mean the OS that runs on it, I mean the certification that you need to do on that as well. So all of that has to come together. And Mbed OS is a way in which we believe we could scale this out. The other thing we're doing is we're seeing that a lot of the developers are experimenting with different types of environments. So initially they might start with something like Arduino. They might have other choices of maker environments in which they're experimenting. And these are not just makers in the traditional sense. These are actually developers inside companies who are starting with Arduino to do their projects, to do their experiments, and then using that to then do their scale out in the future. So we've been working very closely with Arduino to get their platforms to be Mbed enabled. And that way, if a developer starts in the Arduino environment and carries on, eventually when they want to go to scale and production, Arduino doesn't let them do that. They can start moving over to some of the work that we are doing on the cloud side, because that gives them a scalable environment in which to deploy their IoT devices. On the data side, the other open source project that we've got is called Fluentd / FluentBit. So these are effectively the same data collection pieces of code that are client-server compatible. And the problem they're trying to solve is how do we make it easy for data from different sources to come together into a common place and then be sent in a batch mode up into the cloud, rather than every single source trying to send their pieces of data individually up into the cloud, which is quite inefficient. So this is an open source project that is actually the number 3 project on the Cloud Native Foundation. And this is quite good, in terms of this makes us really happy, because this is a very widely supported activity that makes it easy for data from any source to be collected and then sent up into the service that we are offering. And that service is really just an endpoint that data can go into, and then eventually you can start doing the ML, doing the analysis, maybe writing some applications, visualization. And for that, our cloud service has all the different integrations, both on the source side as well as on the sync side, for you to take advantage of the data. And then finally, I talked about the different challenges with the things that you need to do on the cloud. Right? You've got device management. You might want to manage your connectivity because you've got cellular connectivity. You might have a device that gets connected in Japan, or you might have a device that gets connected in the US, but you want to have a common connectivity solution for that. So we are offering different components in the cloud service, as you can see on this slide, which are really there as foundational services for anybody to use to start getting their devices connected and then starting to use the data from that point on. And the services are designed to be composable. So if you only wanted one of those services, you can do that. If you wanted all the services, you can do that. If you wanted the service on-prem, which is actually the case with our device management service, we are seeing a lot of customers saying, I want it on-prem, but I also want it in the cloud, that hybrid environment. So that's also available. And so this diversity of choice, we think, is going to be really important for customers to start adopting IoT for a variety of reasons. From in some cases, the data cannot go outside the country because of regulatory requirements. So we believe that for IoT to scale, services like these will need to be available in different regions. We need to be available in different hybrid environments as well. And then finally, my sort of summary of all this is, this is a big, complex topic. I do believe that for IoT to scale, not only in terms of the solutions, but the types of software that we're going to have to deploy, that will need to be done in conjunction with people like yourselves in the open source community. So from a trusted firmware, we're already doing that. I'd be quite interested in understanding and what you see and what you're thinking. But also the question that I'm asking is, what else can we do? Right? We're starting to do some of the embedded software work with Mbed OS in the open community. What else can we do? How can we take this further? How can we work together to scale this faster? So that's all I have. Thank you, everyone. I don't know if we have time for questions, but I didn't do a time check.
Yeah, we should probably
wrap up. Okay, so that's all. Thank you, everyone.